Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. This is one of those situations where no matter how hard I try to do the right thing, someone ends up heartbroken, and I end up the villain. I, 56 female, honestly don't even know anymore if I'm a terrible mother or just someone trying to hold what's left of her family together. But maybe Reddit can tell me, because my daughter sure won't speak to me again. Let me start with some context that reads more like a twisted soap opera than real life. I have one biological daughter, Emily, 32 female, from my first marriage, and a stepdaughter, Lila, 30 female, from my second. I married my current husband when both girls were teenagers. While they weren't close, they grew up under the same roof. Think polite indifference rather than sisterly bond. Emily was always the responsible one, academic, driven, career-oriented. Lila was more of the free spirit. She bounced from relationship to relationship and had a pattern of gravitating toward men already taken, something I used to chalk up to immaturity or insecurity. Looking back now, I was just in denial. Emily got married 5 years ago to Michael, 35 male. He was charming, respectful, successful, the kind of guy every mother hopes their daughter marries. He doted on Emily, always said the right things, and they seemed solid. I genuinely believed they were happy, until everything imploded. Emily showed up at my house, shaking and crying, holding a box of her belongings. I thought someone had died. In a way, someone had. She had just found out that Michael was cheating on her, with Lila. I didn't believe it at first. I didn't want to. I even said, "Are you sure it's not a misunderstanding?" Emily gave me a dead stare and handed me her phone. There were texts, photos, hotel confirmations, voice memos. There was no denying it. Michael and Lila had been having an affair for months. I was horrified. Not just for Emily, but because I couldn't understand how Lila, my stepdaughter, could betray her stepsister like that. The betrayal was enormous. Emily was devastated. She moved out of her home that night and filed for divorce a week later. As for Lila, she didn't even deny it. She called me the next day, crying, saying she didn't mean for it to happen, but that she and Michael fell in love. She tried to justify it, said they had chemistry, that she never wanted to hurt Emily, but it just happened. I didn't know what to say to either of them. For the first time, my family felt irreparably broken. Emily went no contact with Lila, and with Michael, obviously. She also kept some distance from me for a while, not because she blamed me, but because I think she just needed to isolate herself to get through it. I reached out every week. I brought her groceries, sent texts, checked in without pushing. Eventually, we started seeing each other again. We had lunch once a week. She started to heal, bit by bit. Meanwhile, Lila and Michael stayed together. It made me sick at first. But as the months passed, they became a real couple. They moved in together, got engaged. And about a year after the divorce was finalized, they got married. Now here's the part that may upset people. I did attend their wedding, and yes, Emily was aware. She didn't speak to me for a few months afterward. I completely understood. I struggled with the decision, truly, but I ended up going because, rightly or wrongly, I felt that if I didn't at least try to keep some connection to Lila, I'd lose both daughters. I thought maybe, over time, I could help them both heal. Not reconcile, necessarily, but at least coexist. After a few months, Emily reached out again. She said she didn't agree with me going to the wedding, but she appreciated that I never tried to justify what Lila did. She made it clear she wanted nothing to do with her stepsister, and I respected that. A year later, Emily surprised me with some unexpected news. She was dating someone I already knew. James, 34 male. Lila's ex. Now that took me a minute to process. James and Lila had dated on and off in their early 20s. It was a messy relationship, lots of breakups, drama, and what I always thought was a serious mismatch. I hadn't heard his name in years. Apparently, he and Emily had reconnected through mutual friends at a wedding. They started talking, then dating. When Emily first told me, I tried to stay neutral. It was strange, yes, but I didn't want to make her feel judged. She seemed happy. She said James was kind, gentle, and supportive, everything Michael wasn't. She said it felt like the first time she was in a relationship where she was fully seen and loved. I was genuinely happy for her. Fast forward 6 months. James proposes. She says yes. They're engaged. They moved in together. Meanwhile, Lila and Michael, now married, announced they were expecting their first child. So now here I was, looking at my fractured family, seeing both of my daughters, biological and step, moving forward with their lives, seemingly happy in their new relationships, and I thought, maybe this is the moment to finally put the past to rest. Maybe, just maybe, we could try to coexist in the same room again. Maybe we could be a family, even if an unconventional, awkward one. So, I decided to host Thanksgiving dinner. I called Emily first. I told her I'd love to have her and James for the holiday. She was hesitant, but said yes. I didn't mention Lila. Then I called Lila and Michael. They also accepted. Looking back now, I realize what I did was foolish. But at the time, I genuinely thought everyone had moved on. It had been 2 years, new relationships, new lives. Surely, we could manage one civil dinner. Oh, how wrong I was. Thanksgiving Day arrived. James and Emily came early. Everything seemed fine. Emily brought her famous butternut squash casserole. We were chatting in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. It was Lila and Michael. Emily turned to see who had arrived, and froze. She looked from Michael to Lila, and her eyes locked on Lila's baby bump. Small, but unmistakable. No one said a word for a full 10 seconds. Then Emily turned to me, her voice shaking. "You invited them?" I didn't know what to say. I stammered something like, I thought, maybe we could all just have dinner. Everyone's moved on. Moved on? She repeated. You think I've moved on? James stood next to her, confused. Lila looked down. Michael awkwardly cleared his throat. Emily stepped back like she'd been slapped. Her voice rose. Did you know I've been trying to get pregnant for over a year? Did you know I've done 2 rounds of IVF? That I've had a miscarriage and just last month I found out I might never carry to term? I didn't know, I said quietly. Of course you didn't. Because you didn't ask. You don't even know me anymore. You just assumed that if I smiled in front of you, it meant I was okay. That I'd be fine sitting across the table from the woman who blew up my marriage and gets to have the one thing I can't. Lila opened her mouth, maybe to apologize, but Emily held up a hand. Don't. Just don't. She turned to me one last time. I can't believe I gave you another chance. I really thought maybe this time you'd put me first. She grabbed her coat and left. James followed her, but not before giving me a look that said, What the hell were you thinking? That was 3 weeks ago. Emily hasn't spoken to me since. She's blocked me again. I've tried calling, texting, emailing. Nothing. I feel like I've lost her all over again. But this time, it's entirely my fault. I truly didn't mean to hurt her. I thought time had done its job. I thought love and forgiveness could coexist. I thought wrong. So, am I the a-hole for inviting both couples? My daughter and her fiancé, and my stepdaughter and her husband, who used to be my daughters, to Thanksgiving, thinking we could all move on. Yes, the a-hole. OP really thought her daughter would be okay sitting next to the woman who had an affair with her husband, married him, and is now pregnant, while she's battling infertility. OP didn't just misread the room. She lit a match and tossed it into gasoline. OP's intentions weren't malicious, but they were selfish. And now let's hear community's opinion. This is the kind of story that reminds me healing isn't always linear, and not everyone heals at the same pace. Yes, the a-hole for assuming everyone moved on. Emily didn't move on. She rebuilt. And then you brought back the people who tore her foundation apart. Honestly, I don't blame her for walking away again. Yes, the a-hole. Your heart was probably in the right place, but you made a decision that should have never been yours to make. You tried to blend two fractured parts of your family without preparing either side. That's a recipe for disaster. You didn't protect your daughter, again, and that's why she's gone. My daughter, 21, and my stepdaughter, 23, are getting married soon. My mom left some heirloom jewelry and a dress that she wanted my daughter to wear at her wedding. I've been married to my wife for 20 years, and my stepdaughter is like my daughter. I was going to give her some of the jewelry and the dress. My younger daughter said that her grandmother wanted her to have the dress and the jewelry, not her stepsister. She is right. My mom wanted her granddaughter to have it. When I told my older daughter that I wouldn't give her the dress and jewelry, she said it's not fair and I don't love her. I told her that I would buy her other jewelry of the same value and I would get the exact dress for her, but she said that it's not fair that I made her think I would give it to her. She's really upset and says that I don't love her as much as my other daughter. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole, only for, obviously, previously promising these things to your stepdaughter, despite knowing your mother's intentions for those items. You've now needlessly hurt your stepdaughter's feelings by going outside of these clearly said intentions. You're the a-hole. So, my best friend in high school had a trust fund from her grandmother and grandfather for college. She was the only biological grandchild, and the only grandchild for the majority of her life. Her parents got divorced, and her dad remarried someone that had a young son. The grandparents never really met the son, because the wedding was child-free. So they had no relationship with this kid, didn't consider him their grandson, and that was the end of it. When my friend went to college, it was paid for, and whatever money was left over was given to her to use however she pleased. And everything was good, until her stepbrother, who she was not close with at all, went to college. Suddenly, it comes to light that her father had promised his wife and new child that the college fund would be split evenly among the children. Except my friend is about 12 years older than her stepbrother, moved out of state, lived mostly with her mother, and had already spent the money from the college fund on a down payment for a house. It killed an otherwise healthy relationship between father and daughter, because the money was just for my friend, was never intended to be split, and the grandparents had passed away before they even got to know the stepson. When you marry someone, you make the choice to welcome their children into your life as your children, but you don't get to decide for siblings or other members of the family if they view those children the same way as other kids. As long as people are being rude and mean, you shouldn't expect that they're going to leave anything for the stepchild. Why would you promise some jewelry and the dress to your stepdaughter when you knew it was for your daughter? You're the a-hole because you offered it in the first place. Your daughter was meant to have the dress and jewelry, so give it to her and try to salvage what you can with your stepdaughter. You're in this mess because of your actions. You owe both girls an apology. I deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Libya with the Marines, and later DSS. And I wasted 4 years of my life in these crap-hole backward countries in order to get danger pay and make enough money to pay for my 3 children's universities. One of them decided to join the Corps, so that made it easier. I only have 2 to pay for. My older daughter finished her degree, while my latter started about halfway through, and she got expelled for having an affair with one of the professors. I wish I was joking, but this is 100% serious. I can't begin to describe how pissed and disappointed I was. That's $25,000 down the drain for that year. She managed to find a way to get accepted to another university who's willing to let her transfer. I told her, cool, do you have a job to pay for it? And she said, what? I thought you were going to pay for it. And I said, no way in hell I'm paying for her tuition after she got expelled from the first one. She said it was a silly mistake, and I said I don't care. She's a full-grown adult and capable of making the right choices, and she isn't entitled to my money because I paid for her older sisters and was willing to pay for her brothers. My wife is in agreement with me, but our other relatives are calling us all sorts of nasty names and willing to pay for her tuition. All right, cool. They can use their money how they want. This money is going towards our retirement. She said she will never forgive us for betraying her or some dumb stuff like that. I'm curious what people here think. Perhaps maybe I should be more forgiving. Edit. My daughter made a conscious decision to do so. She in fact initiated it, and from the texts I've seen, she wanted it more than he did. She messaged him first about it. She was not GR, and she is a full-grown woman, not a child. And I find it quite belittling for you guys to think full-grown women in their 20s can't make the right choices. That's ridiculous, and grow the duck up. professor did get fired or put on some sort of administrative leave. I don't know the details. I didn't bother to look them up. He didn't go unpunished. Not the a-hole. Your daughter made her bed, so now she has to lie in it. Hopefully with better choices in bedmates. Not the a-hole. If she wasted 25 grand of your hard-earned money, that's enough. Not the a-hole. You were generous enough to pay for her college the first time. If she messed that up, I think that's a very reasonable choice. It's not easy as a parent letting your kids learn the hard way. Life isn't free and doesn't owe you anything. Being a vet, mad respect for going overseas to put your kids through college. So, I'm now 13, but when I was younger, my dad started acting strange, picking up extra hours when my family really didn't need the extra money. This made my mom start looking into the situation, and long story short, he was cheating. At the time, I didn't understand what was going on, but as I got older, I found out. My mother in the end got to keep the house because it was a gift from her mother when she passed away. So now I am 13 and my brother is 12. Now I wanted to form a relationship with my stepmother, but I found out that she knew my father was married with 2 kids, so that ruined everything for me. So my mother and father got joint, and I have to go see my father 2 weeks in the summer. This story is a little old, by the way. I barely talked to my father for the whole year, and when my brother and I got to his house, I found out he's married and his wife is expecting. I was upset. I didn't know or wasn't invited to the wedding, but the problem doesn't start until 3 days into us being there. So I wanted to go to the mall with my friends, but they ended up not being able to go, but I still wanted to go shopping, so I took my brother with me instead. I asked my father for a ride, but he gave me and my brother money to go shopping and some to buy a lift there, and he said he would pick us up and take us home after. We said all right, and our shopping trip went well, and we even got some new shoes and some food. The problem starts when I call my father to pick us up, and he said he would have to send my stepmother instead. I was not looking forward to the ride with her, but agreed. When she got there, I saw her driving was off, and when she rolled down her window, I could see and smell that she was drunk. Her and my father had gotten drunk a day before, and I didn't even know why she is drinking if she is expecting. Anyways, I am smart enough to know that drinking and driving isn't safe, so I do not get in the car with her, and my brother calls my mom on his phone, and she tells him to stay on the phone with her and me to call the police on mine, while she did the same on the house phone. My stepmother drove away after we said we wouldn't get in the car, and halfway into her driving, the police end up catching her. She's getting charged with drunk driving and child endangerment, and my father could also lose shared time over my brother and I. People on my dad's side of the family are cussing my mom out and are mad at me for calling the police, saying that we should have just called someone else to pick us up, and accused us of doing this because we didn't like our stepmother. So, am I the a-hole and is my mother also the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You handled that situation a lot better than most 13-year-olds would. She's facing the consequences of her own actions. Don't feel guilty. You are obviously not the a-hole here, and you did everything right in this situation. Her driving drunk, especially while pregnant, is already inexcusable, but trying to get you and your brother in the car with her is even worse. You and your mother did the only responsible thing you could, which is to report her before she could hurt herself or anybody else. You sound very insightful for a 13-year-old, as a lot of people at that age would have just gotten in the car when an adult told them to. Good for you for protecting yourself and your little brother. I'm sorry that your dad's family are being jerks about this, but please don't let them make you feel bad at all. She has only herself to blame for any consequences she faces. Not the a-hole. Your father is the a-hole for sending your stepmother to get you when she was drunk. Your stepmother is the a-hole for driving drunk. And your paternal side of the family is the a-hole for not seeing this as serious. Your stepmom could have gotten into an accident, killing or injuring you and your brother, other people, and even herself. She broke the law. Regardless of whether you like your stepmother, calling the police was absolutely right. I divorced my ex-wife when our daughter was in grade school. My daughter and I have a rocky relationship since I can remember, and I do admit I could have been more present when she was growing up. We never connected like I did with my son. My son played sports I enjoyed, and he was just warmer to me when he and my daughter would spend weekends at my house. My daughter is very hardworking, smart, athletic, but there were times, I admit, I was hard on her. My now wife used to give her a hard time about always being hungry when she was growing up, and playing soccer and track. And I admit I have made some comments about her body that I wish I shouldn't have, as she has never had a problem with weight. My daughter resented us for years because of this, but I think we've started to make peace with the past. Like I said, my daughter is very athletic and smart, and after high school, she ended up getting into her dream school for sports and academics. During her growth years, I oftentimes felt closer to servers at breakfast restaurants I frequented than my daughter, and I became close with one server in particular. He was a great kid who was into film, and I even invested into his filming projects and attended showings and other events. Fast forward to recent. I was invited to his college graduation that is 4 hours away and decided to attend to support him. I, however, chose not to attend my daughter's graduation that was a week or two after my friend's graduation. Her college is about 5 hours away from where I live, and at the time, I just couldn't make the trip due to other obligations. She also said she wasn't keen on walking in the ceremony and didn't make a big deal about it, so I assumed it would be fine if I skipped. However, she's now giving me the cold shoulder because she found out I attended a restaurant server's graduation. He's also a great friend, and not hers. Since we haven't been close, I don't think much of it, but she is obviously upset, and I worry we are not ever going to have a good relationship. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add. I have apologized for things I have said in the past, and so has my wife. But she still has a hard time accepting my apology, because she thinks I'm superficial for judging her by what she eats and what her body looks like. I can't help it, but I was judged for this by my parents as well, and maybe that is being projected onto her. I just want her to be healthy. I am proud of her, but I find she is so unpredictable and hot-headed, and will talk to me sometimes and then cut me out or stop answering my texts without warning. She also has mentioned she hasn't made peace with the fact that I divorced her mom, my ex-wife, and married the mistress, even though my ex has made peace with it and we are all friends. Edited to add too. I do have guilt for what's happened, and it hurts that I've made her so sad again. For so long I felt like I was doing a good job with the child support and paying for her sports, etc., and also paying for my ex-wife to go to school to become a teacher. My daughter's schooling was funded by grants and scholarships she received for grades and sports. I really am proud of her success in school and becoming a Hall of Fame athlete at her college, and I have a lot of making up to do. I also want to point out that my good relationship with my son and my server friend is not due to them being male, and I'm not a misogynist. I'm just trying to get some insight into how I can reconnect with my daughter. So, you wrecked your family for a mistress, then let that mistress emotionally be aggressive to your daughter, openly preferred your son, and then picked a stranger's graduation over hers? You are the worst father. You are more than just the a-hole. In a few years' time, when you come to ask why you and your mistress aren't invited to her wedding, why her stepfather or brother or the guy that works at the gas station is walking her down the aisle and not you, remember you've never ever picked her. You've only ever put your own selfish self-interest first. And she deserves better than an aggressive deadbeat like you. You're the a-hole. These are the kind of a-holes who get mad when their daughters don't want them to walk them down the aisles. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole if you expect to have any kind of relationship with your daughter. During her growth years, I oftentimes felt closer to servers at breakfast restaurants I frequented than my daughter. Let me guess, you actually engaged in conversation with the waiter, but not with your daughter. I worry we are not ever going to have a good relationship. Why on earth are you worried about it? You don't care enough to go to her graduation. Why do you care at all? I, 22 female, am very close with my mother. My mother came out as bi and has been dating this girl Sylvia for about 2 years. My father was the love of my mother's life, but he passed away about 10 years ago. They were together since high school and friends since the 4th grade. It was like a fairy tale. This incident has nothing to do with me not wanting my mother to move on, because I want my mother happy. She deserves it. Basically, Sylvia has always said this thing about her being my mom's one true love, and how fate put them together. I always ignored this and let her say what she wanted to say, but I have a younger sister, age 13, who Sylvia tells this to. My sister came to me and said that Sylvia told her this, and when my sister brought up my dad, Sylvia said my parents weren't really soulmates, but just two people that fell in love and were chapters in each other's books, and that Sylvia was my mother's true love. I confronted Sylvia on this because she shouldn't say things like that to my sister. I basically said to Sylvia to stop saying she was my mom's one true love, because that wasn't true. My dad was. This caused a huge argument between Sylvia and she accused me of just not wanting my mother to move on and be happy. I told her that wasn't the case, and that she shouldn't be telling my sister that my father wasn't our mother's soulmate. Then she said I was living in a fantasy, and that my father has passed for a decade now, and that I was being a selfish bee and needed to let my mother move on, completely ignoring my point. She's now asked me not to come by the house when she is home. My mother's currently in the hospital, and I haven't told her any of this because I don't want to stress her out. I can't even come to the house and see my sister. I really don't think I'm the a-hole. I just stated my mind. Not the a-hole. She started this. She also is clearly the one dwelling on your father here, and not you. It sounds like she's jealous that she's second place. She doesn't keep repeating that she is your mom's soulmate because she believes it deeply. She keeps repeating it because she's afraid it's not true. Neither you nor Sylvia get to say who the love of your mother's life is. That is for your mother to know. It is unlikely she will tell any of you the truth about this because she will either offend you or her current partner. Sylvia sounds insecure. There's no benefit to belittling her relationship with your mother. I suggest you talk to your little sister about your memories of your father. You don't need to diminish your mother and Sylvia's relationship to do that. Not the a-hole. Sylvia sounds insecure and narcissistic as heck to be playing this game where she is in competition with your deceased father. The way she is speaking to you and your sister is extremely inappropriate and, honestly, bizarre. Her behaviors sound like that of a jealous teenager. I know you said your mother is in the hospital and you don't wish to upset her, but I think she would want to know how her children are being treated by her partner. I would tell your mother right away, for your sister's sake. You were able to leave the situation, but your sister is stuck around this clearly unwell person, and that's not right.